Hello friends, and welcome back to the channel, where we delve into the mind of a villain. In this entry, we'll be looking at the character of Adrian Toomes, the villain in the MCU film Spider-Man: Homecoming. Arguably one of the best elements of the movie, the MCU's Vulture was a more grounded take compared to the source material of the comics. Toomes was still a scavenger, albeit in another sense of the word, collecting scraps of alien tech from the Avengers' past battles. Toomes originally started out as a common man, an average working-class American owning a salvaging company. His villain origin story occurs when things go south for him, after Tony Stark and the Department of Defense buy out his company, causing him to lose his livelihood. Bitter and vengeful, Toomes becomes a black market arms dealer specializing in alien technology, which eventually leads him to his conflict with Spider-Man. Throughout the course of the film, Toomes displays a wide range of traits. While he's tough and ruthless, he's also approachable and has some sense of honor. One of the first things we see about Toomes is that he's a friendly boss, himself walking the grounds and involving himself with his employees' work, encouraging them with a pat on the back. However, Toomes' volatile side is seen in his outburst of anger, when he angrily punches one of the defense guys after he makes fun of him for overextending himself. At times, Toomes is patient and reasonable, as seen when he deals with the first Shocker's reckless and nonchalant attitude, trying patiently to reason with him and only firing him when he's had enough of his disrespect. Toomes is very protective of his business interest, and his evil side becomes on display when it doesn't take too long for him to resort to killing others to protect them. His intent to kill Spider-Man was seen on 3 different occasions: when he first drops him in mid-air, when he attacks him on the ferry, and when he collapses a building on him. Also, while his killing of the Shocker was accidental, with him supposedly reaching for an anti-air gun, he merely shrugs it off with relative ease, probably due to the fact that he was threatening his livelihood and family. Toomes is a brilliant tactician who demonstrates a keen sense of self-awareness. He is aware that he is a low-class criminal that needs to stay under the radar to thrive, and so he acts accordingly and admonishes his men when they fire their weapons in public. He's not trying to take over the world, he just wants a bigger payday. With his under-the-radar, play-it-safe approach, he was able to thrive and keep his black market operation running for 8 years without drawing any suspicion from the Avengers or other law enforcement organizations, and even his family. It is this careful approach that causes him to repeatedly turn down the Tinkerer's request to rob Tony Stark's plane shipment, with him only changing his mind when he realizes that he is already on Iron Man's radar. The missions he chooses are carefully calculated, with him taking a tactical stealth-based approach where his victims are unaware that they're being stolen from. Toomes' motivation is twofold: 1, to provide a better life for his family, and 2, to break free from the middle class. Toomes did not become Spider-Man's nemesis because of a classic hero-anti-hero archetype. On the contrary, he is superficial and only wants to get rich, gain capital, while affirming his newly found wealth to the world. In his conversation with Peter, he implies that while he knows that selling weapons to criminals is inherently wrong, he justifies it by comparing it with Tony Stark's former occupation of selling weapons, some of which inadvertently ended up with terrorists. But his main justification of his criminal enterprise comes in the form of getting back at the rich and powerful as a means to escape having to pick up after them and eat their table scraps, as he says. But while social injustice is indeed a real thing, and wanting to provide for your family is a noble cause, Toomes has done it at the expense of others, as no good can possibly come out of supplying highly destructive weapons to buyers with evil intent. For all of his flaws, Toomes does have some redeeming qualities, most notably a sense of honor that we see when he changes his mind about killing Peter Parker as a sign of gratitude for saving his daughter's life earlier on. Despite his plan to get rich quick being thwarted by Spider-Man earlier, Toomes shows a proclivity towards coexisting with him if he was left free to continue terrorizing the city. However, he does clearly and most menacingly threaten Peter that he will kill him should he interfere again. Adrian Toomes' final fate, delivered at the hands of Spider-Man, ultimately illustrates his character arc and narrative. He was not killed, destroyed, or self-destroyed in the most violent or poetic of ways, usually reserved for archetypal villains. He was in fact saved by Spider-Man before his Vulture wingsuit exploded. While this was certainly a sign of Peter's ultimate rite of passage into heroism, it is also the appropriate end for Toomes. Vulnerable, tied, and left for authorities to find and arrest, like the low-level thug he is. His biggest punishment consisted in his family learning about his criminal exploits and leaving the city, ultimately abandoning him and giving the final blow to his contorted all-American dream. In the end, he achieved the exact opposite of what he set out to do. Greedy, territorial, and yet somewhat virtuous, Adrian Toomes was a villain motivated by materialistic pursuit, while justifying his evil means of achieving wealth with his resentment against the hand that life dealt him. Nevertheless, given that he was not the ultimate villain, ultimate redemption can be imagined for Adrian Toomes. In a similar fashion to Oscar Wilde's Dorian Gray, who before his demise saw a minuscule sign of goodness in a vile painting of his soul, Toomes decided not to give up Spider-Man's identity to a fellow criminal while in prison to protect him out of gratitude. So what do you think of the Adrian Toomes, folks? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, folks. If you like this video, subscribe to see more entries like these, and you can check out other characters covered here.